Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alex's English Podcast. I'm Alex, your host, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. If this is your first time here, let me tell you what this channel is all about. We practice speaking and listening in simple, clear English. Our goal is to help you feel more comfortable and confident with your English skills. Today, we have a very special topic that many of you have asked about: how to speak English more confidently. And of course, I have my wonderful friend Sophia here with me. Hello, Sophia.
Hi, Alex. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. Confidence is such a big issue when learning a new language. I know many people feel shy or afraid of making mistakes. I used to feel that way too, so I can't wait to share my experiences and hear yours.
That's right. I think we've all felt nervous at some point when speaking a foreign language. But the good news is, we can work on this skill. We can become more confident by practicing certain tips and tricks.
Absolutely. Sometimes, just knowing we're not alone in feeling insecure can help a lot. When I started learning English, I was so scared of talking to native speakers. I worried that people would laugh at my mistakes.
Me too. In fact, when I studied another language for the first time, I spent hours memorizing words, but I was too afraid to speak. Then I realized that confidence is something we build step by step. It doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly. So, let's share some steps and ideas with our listeners. Maybe we can start by explaining the importance of thinking positively. When we think, "I will never speak English well," we limit ourselves. But if we tell ourselves, "I can improve, and I'm learning every day," our minds become more open and relaxed.
Right. Positive self-talk is crucial. For me, I used to say to myself, it's okay to make mistakes because every mistake is a chance to learn something new. That small shift in mindset helped me become braver when trying to speak.
That's a great approach. Now, another big tip is to practice regularly but in a fun way. If we only study grammar rules from a textbook, we might get bored or frustrated. Instead, we can watch our favorite TV shows, listen to music we love, or even follow interesting YouTubers in English.
Exactly. The more we expose ourselves to English in daily life, the more natural it becomes. For instance, if you like cooking, you can watch cooking videos in English. If you like fashion, you can find fashion vloggers who speak English. This way, learning feels enjoyable, not like a chore.
Yes. And while watching or listening, try to repeat words or phrases you hear. Even if you're alone in your room, repeat them out loud. That helps you get used to the sounds of English.
Definitely. I do that sometimes with movie scenes. I'll pause a scene and repeat the actor's line to practice my pronunciation. It's fun and it boosts my confidence because I'm imitating real speech.
That's a great habit. Another tip is to find a friend or a language partner. Talking to someone else in English, even for a few minutes, can help us feel more comfortable. If we do it often, our confidence grows.
Yes, and if you don't have a friend nearby who speaks English, you can try online communities or language exchange apps. There are so many ways to connect with English learners and native speakers these days.
True. The internet has made it easier to practice speaking with people from all over the world. When I wanted to boost my speaking confidence, I found a small group online and we had video calls once a week. At first I was shy, but over time, I realized we were all just trying to improve.
That's a great story. Sometimes it helps to know that other learners feel exactly the same fears. We don't have to be perfect. In fact, trying too hard to be perfect can stop us from speaking at all.
Absolutely. Nobody speaks a new language perfectly right away. Even native speakers make mistakes. I think the key is progress, not perfection. Celebrate small victories, like being able to order food in English or introducing yourself with confidence.
Exactly. Little steps lead to big changes. Another point is to slow down when speaking. Sometimes we try to speak too fast because we feel nervous. Then we lose our words or become confused. If we speak a bit more slowly, we can organize our thoughts better.
Yes, that's a very good point. Speed does not equal fluency. A slower, clearer sentence is often better than a rushed one with mistakes. Also, pausing between sentences can give us time to think.
Right? And as we speak, we can remember to breathe. It might sound silly, but focusing on breathing helps us calm down. When we're nervous, we often forget to breathe properly.
So true. I used to speak in one quick breath, and then I'd run out of air and get even more anxious. Now, I try to speak in short sentences, breathe, and keep going. It really helps.
Absolutely. Another tip that really helped me was setting realistic goals. Instead of saying, I want to be fluent in English in 1 month, I focused on smaller targets, like, I want to learn 5 new expressions this week, or I want to have a short conversation with my friend tomorrow.
That's a great strategy. When we set achievable goals, we feel motivated to keep going. And every time we reach a goal, no matter how small, we feel a sense of accomplishment.
Definitely. And speaking of goals, I also recommend reading out loud. Even if it's just a short text from a book or an article, reading out loud can train our mouths to form English words. It also helps with pronunciation and confidence.
Yes, that's a fantastic exercise. Some people do daily reading aloud for 5 or 10 minutes. Over time, they notice that their pronunciation gets better, and they feel braver about speaking.
Exactly. Another point is to record yourself speaking. This might feel strange at first, but it's a useful tool. You can listen to yourself, notice your mistakes or weak points, and then work on improving them.
I agree. When I recorded myself, I found it uncomfortable, but I discovered words I was pronouncing incorrectly. Then I focused on fixing those sounds. After a while, I noticed progress, and that made me more confident.
Yes, it's a powerful method. Also, I suggest that people practice speaking in front of a mirror sometimes. That way, you can see your facial expressions and mouth movements. It can feel funny, but it helps us become more aware of how we speak.
Right. I remember reading that a lot of actors practice in front of mirrors to improve their diction and expressions. If it works for actors, why not for English learners?
Exactly. Now let's talk about the fear of making mistakes. This is probably the biggest obstacle to speaking confidently. We worry we'll say something wrong, and people will judge us.
Yes, that fear can be paralyzing. But the reality is, everyone makes mistakes, especially when learning a new language. Most people understand that we're trying our best, and they don't judge us harshly.
Exactly. In fact, many native speakers find it impressive when someone tries to speak their language, even if they make errors. And if they correct us, it's usually helpful, not insulting.
Right. And if someone does laugh in a rude way, that says more about them than about our skills. We shouldn't let one bad experience stop us from improving.
Absolutely. Also, we can learn from mistakes. Every time someone corrects me, I think, great, now I know how to say it better. That's a step forward, not a failure.
Yes, a mistake is just a sign we're growing. Another idea is to use fillers when we need time to think. For example, phrases like, let me think, or that's a good question, can give us a moment to organize our thoughts without feeling rushed.
Exactly. Native speakers use fillers all the time, so it's natural. We don't have to speak in perfect sentences right away. We can give ourselves a second to find the right word.
Right. And sometimes, if we can't remember a word, we can describe it in another way. For example, if I forget the word strawberry, I can say, it's a small red fruit with seeds on the outside. This way, I keep speaking instead of stopping completely.
Yes, that's called paraphrasing. It's a great skill to develop. It helps us avoid awkward silence. And often, the person we're talking to will supply the word we're looking for.
Exactly. Now, another tip. Reading children's books or simple stories can be very helpful. They usually have simpler language, but they're still engaging. It's a non-intimidating way to build vocabulary.
Yes, that's true. We might think children's books are too basic, but they cover everyday words. It's also fun to read them out loud, especially if they have rhymes or repetition.
Indeed. And if someone wants more advanced practice, they can move on to young adult novels. The key is to find material that matches our level. We don't want something too easy or too difficult.
Exactly. A balance is important. Now, another point. Don't compare your English to others. We all learn at different speeds. Some people have more time to study or more exposure to English. We should focus on our own journey.
Yes, comparison often leads to frustration. Instead, look at your own progress over time. Maybe 6 months ago, you couldn't introduce yourself confidently. And now you can. That's a huge achievement.
Right? We should celebrate our wins, no matter how small they seem. Positive reinforcement keeps us motivated and confident.
Exactly. Also, if you can find a supportive group or community, that's great. Surround yourself with people who encourage you and give constructive feedback instead of criticism.
Yes, a kind, helpful environment makes a big difference. And if we don't have that offline, we can look for online communities of English learners who support each other.
Definitely. Another big thing is consistency. Studying for 15 minutes every day is better than studying for 2 hours once a month. Small, regular practice helps us remember things better and stay confident.
Right? Consistency is key. Even just speaking aloud to ourselves for a few minutes each day can help. We can describe what we're doing or our plans for the day, all in English.
Yes, that's a fun habit. Sometimes when I'm cooking or cleaning, I talk to myself in English. It might sound strange, but it's good practice and helps me feel more natural.
I do that too. It keeps my brain in English mode. Then, when I talk to other people, the words come more easily.
Exactly. Another idea is to keep a personal journal in English. Write down your thoughts or a summary of your day. Over time, you'll see improvement in your writing, which can also boost your speaking confidence.
Yes, writing is a great way to process vocabulary and grammar without pressure. And if we're comfortable, we can read our journal entries out loud to practice speaking.
Great idea. Now let's talk about pronunciation. Many people worry that their accent isn't perfect, but having an accent is totally normal. We all have accents in any language.
Absolutely. Aiming for clarity is more important than aiming for a perfect accent. As long as people understand you, that's what matters most.
Right. If we want to improve pronunciation, we can use online resources or apps that focus on specific sounds. But we shouldn't feel bad if we don't sound exactly like a native speaker.
Exactly. Sometimes a slight accent can be charming. It's a sign of our unique background and culture. The main goal is to communicate clearly.
Yes, that's correct. Also, it's good to remember that English is spoken in many different ways around the world. There's British English, American English, Australian English, Indian English, and so on. Each has its own accent and style.
Exactly. So, there isn't just one way to speak English. As long as we're understandable, we're doing well.
Right. Now, let's consider fear in speaking exams or job interviews. That can be very stressful, and confidence can really suffer.
True. For formal situations, practicing common questions and answers can help. If we're ready with some answers or phrases, we feel less nervous.
Yes. We can also do mock interviews with friends or record ourselves answering typical questions. That way, we become more familiar with the format.
Exactly. Preparation reduces anxiety. We can also remind ourselves that the interviewer knows we're not native speakers, and they're focusing on what we can say, not just how perfect we sound.
Right. Also, a little nervousness is normal. Even native speakers can feel anxious in an interview. We just need to manage it, breathe, and speak as clearly as we can.
Exactly. And if we forget a word or make a mistake, we can politely correct ourselves and move on. It's no big deal.
Right. Being too hard on ourselves can ruin our confidence. Remember, communication is the goal, not perfection.
Definitely. Now let's talk about a funny moment we had while speaking English. Do you have a story to share?
Oh yes, I once confused the word beach with another word. Let's just say it sounded like I was using a rude word. My friend laughed, and I was super embarrassed. But then I laughed too, and I learned how to pronounce beach correctly.
Laughs. That's a common mix-up. It happens. I once tried to say sheet of paper, but ended up sounding like I used a bad word. Everyone giggled, but they also understood what I meant.
Exactly. These moments can be funny stories later on. It's all part of the journey. No need to feel terrible about it.
Right? We can laugh at ourselves and keep going. Now let's summarize some of the main tips we've shared today. First, positive self-talk and acceptance of mistakes.
Yes. Next, regular practice in a fun way, like watching videos, listening to music, and speaking or reading out loud.
Also, finding a practice partner, whether in person or online, and setting realistic goals.
Right. Plus, slowing down our speech, breathing, using fillers, and paraphrasing when we forget a word.
Exactly. And not comparing ourselves to others, focusing on our own progress, and celebrating small wins.
Yes. We also mentioned reading children's books or simpler texts, keeping a journal in English, and recording ourselves to spot mistakes.
Right. And remembering that accents are normal, clarity is the main goal, and there's no single correct accent.
Exactly. Finally, preparing for formal situations like interviews with mock practices, understanding that a bit of nervousness is normal, and continuing even if we make mistakes.
Yes, that sums it up nicely. I hope our listeners feel encouraged and ready to take small steps toward greater English confidence.
Me too. I want everyone listening to know that confidence takes time. Don't be discouraged if you still feel shy next week. Keep going, keep practicing, and you will see improvement.
That's wonderful advice. And remember everyone, you're not alone in this. Many people around the world are learning English, and we all share similar struggles and victories.
Absolutely. Now, let's give a quick reminder. If you enjoy this podcast, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Alex's English podcast. It really helps us reach more learners.
Yes, please do. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe share your own tips or your own funny mistakes in English. We can all learn together.
That's a great idea. Reading other people's tips or stories can inspire us. And it makes us feel like part of a big, supportive community.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, Sophia. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I had a great time talking about how to speak English more confidently.
Me too, Alex. I love discussing these topics. I hope our listeners feel motivated and ready to try these strategies.
I hope so too. All right, everyone. Thank you again for watching and listening. This is Alex's English Podcast, where we keep it simple and friendly for all English learners. Have a wonderful day. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone. Keep going, stay confident, and we'll talk again soon.